Hello everyone, Absent Friend here, and today we're coming at you with another guide for Disney Villainous. So let's hang up our shrunken heads, make deals with shadows, and be sure to tell your children to behave themselves, otherwise the Voodoo Man is coming to get them.
A tip of the hat from Dr. Facilier. How y'all doing?
In this video, we will be looking at all of the cards in Dr. Facilier's deck with a few tips on how to play them or not play them as the case may be. We will also be looking at the Voodoo Man's Fate deck for anyone who may want some tips and tricks on how to effectively keep the Witch Doctor from winning the game. Before we begin, be sure to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell to be alerted when new episodes are available. To win as the Voodoo Man, he must reveal the Rule New Orleans card from his fortune pile while also in control of his talisman. Don't worry, we have some friends who can help us. Let's check them out. Of course, by friends, we mean allies. He has a total of 11. 3 shadow spirits, 3 voodoo dolls, 3 masked spirits, 1 shadow man, and 1 Lawrence. First up, the shadow spirits. They cost 2 power and have a strength of 3. Their only other ability is if they are revealed from the fortune deck, the Voodoo Man will lose 2 power. Next, the voodoo dolls. These freaky little things cost 1 power and have a strength of 2. They also have the ability to move heroes when the dolls move. This could come in very handy if there are heroes covering important actions. Play them to the parade because that play card action is very important. We'll explain that later. And now for the masked spirits. This free-to-play card has 2 strength, but they also have the nasty ability of forcing the Voodoo Man to cease all fortune revelations. Unless the Witch Doctor can use them immediately in a vanquish action, never play them. Put them in the discard pile and keep them there as much as possible. They must stay out of the fortune pile at all costs. Oh, and they are also considered an item. Next is Shadow Man. This 3-cost ally has a strength of 4. He also has the ability to move with Dr. Facilier if they begin the turn at the same location. The best way to play this card is to keep him with Dr. Facilier for every turn. If the Voodoo Man moves, the Shadow Man should move with him until it is needed in a vanquish action. The last ally is Lawrence. This card costs 2 power to play and has the ability to move to any location where a new hero is played in the Voodoo Man's realm. Since he has a strength of 3, he can vanquish any hero who could possibly steal the talisman away. Use him for this purpose. And that's it for the allies. Now let's look at the items. He has a total of 8. 3 masked spirits, 2 frog forms, 1 cane, 1 illusion powder, and 1 talisman. Let's start with the masked spirits. Since these cards are considered items as well as allies, they could trigger several other villains' condition cards. So as stated before, just discard them. Next item is frog form. This free-to-play card gets attached to any hero to reduce that hero's strength by -2. Use this on any hero to make them easier to defeat. Now for the cane. This item costs 3 power to play and lets the Voodoo Man use an extra action on an adjacent location as long as it isn't a fate action. Play this card to the Voodoo Emporium. There is a very good reason for this, which we'll discuss later. Our next item up for bids is the illusion powder. This card costs 2 power and is very handy at removing any unwanted cards from the fortune pile. Use this item as much as possible. Play it to one of the inner locations like the parade or Tiana's place so it can easily be moved to wherever the heroes are that need to be vanquished to trigger this card's ability. And the last item is the Voodoo Man's objective item, the Talisman. This card costs 3 power to play and should be played anywhere in the realm. Be careful not to play this card too early, as any hero with a strength of 3 or less can steal it away from the Witch Doctor, and he cannot win the game if it is not on his side of the realm. And that's it for the items. Now let's look at those effects. He has 10 total. 3 friends on the other side, 3 sleight of hand, 3 the cards will tell, and 1 rule New Orleans. Let's look at that card first. This card costs 3 power to play and is the other objective card the Voodoo Man needs to win the game. Go ahead and play this card as soon as possible. It could lead to being fated many times, but if it's early in the game, the opponents will be using their fate actions all the time, which will hinder their own progress, while the Voodoo Man can just focus on winning the game. Next, let's look at Friends on the Other Side. This 0 cost effect lets the Voodoo Man gain 2 power, but then he has to place this card into the fortune pile. While this is a great way to get free power, be careful on placing too many cards into the fortune pile, as it will hurt his chances of winning the game. The next effect is Sleight of Hand. This effect costs 1 power to play and allows the Witch Doctor to look at the top 3 cards of his deck, put 1 card in his hand, and discard the rest. Play this card every time it appears to cycle through the deck quickly and get to those objective cards, or even the helpful items like the cane and illusion powder. Next effect on the list is The Cards Will Tell. This 1 power cost effect can only be played at the Voodoo Emporium. When it is played, the Voodoo Man will shuffle his fortune pile face down, fan out the cards to one of his opponents, and let that opponent choose 3 random cards. Those cards will be revealed in any order, and then the Voodoo Man will resolve all the fortune abilities in any order he wishes and then discard them. If the masked spirits are revealed, no other revealed card gets resolved. If Rule New Orleans is revealed, Dr. Facilier wins the game. Since this card must be played at the Voodoo Emporium, be sure to have the cane here so the Witch Doctor can use the play card action from the parade location and play 2 cards in the same turn. As long as he has 4 power, he can play the Talisman and The Cards Will Tell in 1 turn before any hero can be brought out to steal the Talisman away. Pretty sneaky, huh? And that's all the cards that the Voodoo Man can play during his turn. Now let's look at those conditions. He has a total of 4, 2 Desperations and 2 Terrors. Let's start with Desperation. This card allows the Voodoo Man to retrieve any card from the fortune pile and place it in his hand as long as the opponent discards 2 or more cards. Remember, discarded cards can be from things other than just the discard action. Watch opponents carefully to be able to use this card every chance he gets. The next condition is Terror. If any opponent gains 3 or more power during their turn, Dr. Facilier can get an ally or an effect card from his discard pile. This condition will be triggered by almost any villain in the game, so keep this card and use it as much as possible. Okay, that's it for all the cards in the Voodoo Man's deck. Now, let's take a look at his Fate deck to see how we're going to keep our good little Witch Doctor from winning the game. Let's start with the heroes of New Orleans. First up is Ray. This little bug has a strength of 1, but also allows the Fator to play both Fate cards during this Fate action. Go ahead and do this anytime he is revealed and cover up actions and or clog that fortune pile. Our next hero is Eudora, Tiana's mother. This 2-strength hero is good for covering actions, and when the Voodoo Man defeats her, he must choose an opponent to play the top card of his own Fate deck. She can be a good card to play, but if there is a better card, play it instead. Next up is Juju. He has 2 strength, and when he is played, the Fator may discard 1 item at the location he has played 2. Use this happy little snake to get rid of the cane. If the cane isn't out, get rid of the illusion powder. If neither one of these items are in play, then play the other Fate card. Our next hero is Charlotte. When this prissy little girl is played, the Fator gets to look at the top 2 cards of the Voodoo Man's deck and place any of those cards into the fortune pile. Any card not put into the fortune pile is returned to the deck in any order. Remember, the Witch Doctor's fortune pile needs to be clogged with all kinds of garbage. Any card that can be added to the fortune pile will make it that much harder for him to win the game. And now for her father, Big Daddy LaBouffe. This 3-strength hero allows the Fator to choose a card from the fortune pile and return it back to the deck. Since this ability is optional, only use it when Rule New Orleans is in the fortune pile to make the Voodoo Man have to get it back in his hand and pay 3 more power to play it again. And coming directly from the Bayou, Mama Odie. She has 3 strength and she only allows the Voodoo Man to reveal 2 cards instead of 3 when he wants to play The Cards Will Tell. This will make it more difficult for the Good Witch Doctor to win, so play her to any location that needs actions covered. Now for our 2 frog heroes, starting with Naveen. He has a strength of 4 and can move every hero in the Voodoo Man's realm to an adjacent location. If he comes out and there are no heroes, then just play the other card if it's more useful. But if there are several heroes out, use him to move them away from allies that could possibly vanquish them in the next turn. And the other frog, Tiana. She also has 4 strength and makes all the Voodoo Man's cards cost 1 more power to play. Play her anytime she comes out to keep the Witch Doctor's power supply low. And our last hero is Lewis, or maybe Louie, the trumpet playing alligator. He has a strength of 5, and when the Voodoo Man moves to his location, his hand must be revealed to an opponent, and that opponent will choose a card to be placed into the fortune pile. Play him to the Voodoo Emporium or the Bayou, since Dr. Facilier will be going to these locations often. And that's it for the heroes. Now let's take a look at how to cover up those actions in the Voodoo Man's realm. First, cover the parade, and keep this one covered as much as possible. Then cover Tiana's place, then the Bayou, and finally the Voodoo Emporium. And now for the Fate items. Okay, there it is again. Now does he have Fate items? Now that's strike 2. Alright, let's just move right along to the Fate effects. He has a total of 6. 3 almost there, and 3 the Evening Star. First up is Almost There. This is the best card in the entire Fate deck. Play this card every time it is revealed. When played, the Fator can look at the top 3 cards in the Voodoo Man's deck and place any of them into the fortune pile. Scratch that. Place all of them in the fortune pile. There are some cards that aren't allowed to be placed in the fortune pile, but everything else should go in there to clog it up. Next is the Evening Star. This card allows the Fator to pick any ally in the Voodoo Man's realm and place it in the fortune pile. Since he has so many allies, here is a priority list of which ally to choose. Number 1, Masked Spirits. Number 2, Voodoo Dolls. Number 3, Lawrence. Number 4, Shadow Man. And number 5, Shadow Spirits. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everyone found this guide informative and maybe even picked up a few pointers on how to better play the Voodoo Man or play against him. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a like and don't forget to subscribe. Keep watching this channel for more Disney Villainous guides, but before we go, let me know in the comments which Disney villain you think is the most charismatic. This is your absent friend, signing off. Huh? Where did you get that voodoo powder? I hope you know how to use that. What are you doing?
Okay, that's strike 3. You're fired.